Inspiration, clarity, confidence, and wholehearted growth strategies. Welcome to Your Next Chapter, the show especially for women discovering, deepening, and expanding their next chapters in business and life. If this is you, then hit subscribe now. I'm your host, Angela Rasmus, and I'm so glad you're here. Hello and welcome to episode 104 of the Your Next Chapter podcast. I hope you're ready for your wee dose of inspiration today. And it comes in the form of a wholehearted conversation with the lovely Diane Lang, who is a positive living expert, a life coach, and a speaker, all the way from New York City. Now, Diane and I were definitely kindred spirits in this conversation. She shared so many fabulous insights that made a whole host of sense to me. She's really on this mission to help us develop a sustainable, positive attitude that can actually turn us into literally an optimist. But I want to reassure you, this is nothing about being Pollyanna, happy all the time. Because the reality is that a full, wholehearted life means we need to experience the whole gamut of emotions. Stress is okay. Challenge is okay. In fact, Diane brought up a concept today I hadn't heard of before. It's about the idea of post-traumatic growth syndrome. Now, that is you growing as a result of the experiences and the challenges that you've needed to move through. And I'm sure if you look back with the benefit, as I call it, hindsight, you'll see that when you have come through things that at the time felt just so hard and so difficult, when you actually did come through the other side, you have absolutely grown as a result. I know that's certainly been my experience. And in fact, Diane and I discussed how so many of us have a story that has led us to the field of helping. As I call it, next chapters are so often built on skinned knees. It's the wisdom that you bring with you, the experiences and the insights that can help shorten and sweeten the journey for others, which gives us so much fulfillment in these next chapter businesses that we're building. So we have a lot of conversation around that, and also the idea of how you can actually cultivate your own gratitude and happiness syndromes, shall we call them. It's retraining your brain to go from negative to positive, because so much research has shown us that the more positive emotions you experience, the longer and healthier you will live. And hey, I like the sound of that. So yes, so many great ideas in this conversation that I know you'll benefit from as you are moving into your own next chapter. So I really hope that you enjoy it, and I'll talk to you again on the other side. Well, hello there and welcome back to another episode of the Your Next Chapter podcast. This is Angela Rasmus, your host. And today we are whizzing over from Sydney to New Jersey in America to speak with Diane Lang, who's a positive living expert, a life coach, and a speaker. Now, we've been chatting a little bit before I hit record, and so I already know that you're in for a treat with the conversation that we're going to have today. But Diane and I had a few technical hiccups bringing ourselves together, and we're saluting each other's perseverance to get through the horrors of the internet when it was misbehaving, and also weather. But we are here today, and I'm really looking forward to chatting. Thank you, Diane. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your persistence with all our different weather-related and tech problems. I'm just so happy to be here.
Me too as well, absolutely. Well, what we're going to be talking about today, I'm very excited about this concept of happiness and resilience and optimism, and the one that really triggered my interest was the concept of post-traumatic growth. But that's where we're going to. What I'd love to do first, which I always do with my lovely guests, is to find out your previous chapters. Wherever we are today has always been led to by the experiences of our past. So if you can give us some insight into what led you to the work that you're doing in the world today.
Well, honestly, I always say this to a lot of my students because I've been teaching college for a long time, is when I get new psych students coming in, getting really interested in the psychology field, counseling, social work, wherever they're going, most of us have some kind of story which led us to this field. For us to want to be in this field to help others, we've been someplace. And for me, it was, having a very hard, very emotionally tough childhood that, lasted for a long time for me. It led me to be anorexic as a child. And thankfully, I'm all healed. And I went through the process of counseling and really worked on my growth, and then became a therapist, and then recently doing more life coaching than I am doing therapy. And then about 6.5 years ago, I got really sick. and unfortunately got this illness that's incurable that caused me to have an issue where I couldn't swallow or eat for almost a year. I had to relearn to eat again and relearn to swallow. And it was a really tough time, and it really triggered a lot. And when it did, I really actually started using all of the tools and tips we're going to talk about today. And even though I've used them as a therapist, as a coach for 20 years, even though I taught them at the college level and all my speaking events, when you start using them on yourself, you start realizing, wow, how powerful this is and what a difference it made. And that's where I really started getting out there and doing all the workshops and speaking, both, mainstream and in corporations, because I really just want to spread the word, because it's just done so much for me. And I've watched it with my clients as well. But when you do it personally, you get this whole aha, I got to spread this. I really got to make a difference, because now not only did I see it in my clients, but I just dealt with it firsthand. And, when I went for counseling years and years ago for my own childhood issues, positive psychology was just at the forefront. It was coined in 1998 by Dr. Martin Seligman. I graduated with my master's in counseling psych in 1998. So I was at the end of my counseling degree when positive psych was introduced to me. And thankfully, I went to a school that was humanistic, and humanistic is kind of the foundation for positive psychology. So it was such a natural transition to learn more about it, both academically and then in my own personal life. And it just became really what I started using in my practice, what I studied, what I researched, and really just a love. I'm really passionate about it. And I hope that I can help some people today.
And I can hear that in your voice when you're talking about it. You sound very buoyant when the subject comes up. Very much so. So it sounds as though that's a huge leap for us when, on one hand, we're looking at things theoretically, and here's the practices and the principles, and we're teaching them and sharing them. But it's a totally different experience when we actually are plunged into the middle of that type of challenge ourselves and recognize the power of the tools, as you said.
Oh yeah, it's amazing, because like I said, I've watched. For me, I worked at a rehabilitation center with traumatic brain injury and substance abuse clients. So a lot of my clients had brain injury, whether it was military, a sport-related injury, stroke, drug and alcohol. And due to that brain injury, a lot of them also had spinal injury. They had drug and alcohol issues. And I always used to use a lot of the positive psychology interventions, the framework, with my clients, and always found it so amazing how it really pushed the counseling into another area. It just was so great. But then when I used it on myself, because I was in such a bad place, I just, when you can't eat, you can't swallow, they don't know what's going on with you. For a while, they thought I had ALS. So I thought I was dying of Lou Gehrig's for a few months before they even found out what my real illness was. So, I was really at a rock bottom place. And when I just saw that working, even before I found out my diagnosis and that I was going to be okay, even if it's incurable, I was going to live, it just kept the healing process going. So now I'm just on a mission to get out there and get it all out there for people.
Well, I often say that next chapter businesses are often built on skinned knees. So our own experiences,
absolutely.
And what we learn and how we've grown ourselves. And therefore we want to help other people by avoiding the potholes, so to speak, in the road, or shortening and sweetening their journey by the insights that we've had. It doesn't always mean that you need to have gone through some trauma yourself. It can just mean you found a way to build a better mousetrap, so to speak. But in this instance, this concept led you to, I'm assuming this was the birthplace of the post-traumatic growth concept, yeah?
Well, honestly, when I became a therapist through my childhood issues, and having, that experience that was really negative as a child, I never realized by becoming a therapist and helping others that I actually went through post-traumatic growth myself, because one, again, it wasn't in the forefront of what you learned academically at the time. Yeah. It was just starting. So it took me a few years into my practice to really start learning, wow, this is what I did already. And then did it again with my illness, because people with post-traumatic growth, personalities who have that growth afterwards, where, if you're having post-traumatic growth, just to go back a little bit, it refers to being able to positively change due to a really traumatic life event. So it's experiencing a traumatic event, whatever that is for you, because it's different for different people. It could be an illness or injury, as we talked about. It could be anything traumatic. I used to work in a rape clinic. It could be anything that's traumatic for the person. But, after the traumatic event, they can facilitate growth in their own life and then use it to not only make their own life better, but to help other people. And I realized that's what I've been doing as a therapist. And it's probably what a lot of us, and like you said before, not everybody has to go through a traumatic event to become a therapist or to want to help people. But I think what happens is everybody hits somewhat of a rock bottom where they know this is not working for me. I don't want this anymore. I want something better. I don't like feeling this way. And whether it's watching somebody else go through pain, maybe parents going through a divorce or watching the loss of a loved one or going through something yourself, it makes you more empathetic. It makes you more prone to really want to reach out because you feel somebody else's pain. You know, that's the thing about empathy. I always tell people, empathy is not about it's yes, putting yourself in someone else's shoes, absolutely. But I might not be able to put myself in your shoes. You know, maybe I have a client who has cancer and I never had cancer. But this is the thing. I don't have to understand cancer. I just have to understand the emotions behind the cancer, the fear, the anger, the sadness, the confusion, whatever it's causing. And that's the important tool. So I think when we all hit some kind of rock bottom, each one of us individually, and we will, because, right, you know, the world is a place of ups and downs. Unfortunately, if you haven't hit something yet, you will. And I'm not saying that as a negative. I'm saying it as it's a good thing. You're going to hit it. It's going to cause growth. It's going to cause you to learn and to make changes that are better for you. And in hindsight, you'll look back and go, thank God that happened. But it'll form the empathy and the emotional intelligence to get through that. And for people, they have the ability, if they choose to have post-traumatic growth. And that's such an important, I guess, term that people should really know. You know, here in the United States, everything is always on the negative bias stuff. You know, so we always discuss post-traumatic stress disorder. And of course, it exists. I've had many clients who've had that, you know, with traumatic brain injury, military, PTSD is there for a lot of people. It's real, it's painful, and I'm not saying it's not, but we never talk about the other side, that you have the ability to also grow from this in a positive place and to end up in a positive place and become more resilient and to have this great quality of life. And we don't really talk about it here. You know, we have more of a negativity here in the news. I'm not sure about where you are, but here we do.
I think news the world around has a little bit of that slant on it. But there's a really important point that I'm hearing as you're talking about this, is you've used the word 2 or 3 times now, that you can choose to have post-traumatic growth. Okay, so it sounds as though this is a conscious choice to recognize, okay, I'm at my rock bottom. The world is crap right now. However, I know that this is impermanent and that things are going to get better. It's like making that choice. I mean, that's the part of positive psychology that I adore. It's not like a Pollyanna scenario that happy, happy, joy, joy, even in the face of trauma, but recognizing that the world goes up and down. So that choice point that you're talking about, could you dig a little into that? Because I've certainly had my own rock bottom that I've come out through the other side. Mine was around addiction, and so that was 13 years ago almost that I moved into recovery, and so that was definitely where I now recognize, and that's why I hitched onto the term, the post-traumatic growth, because I attribute that personal development piece as being the foundation of everything that I do today, without a doubt. But when you're in the midst of trauma, you don't necessarily recognize this ability to grow from it. So how can we switch that on? How can we help someone become more resilient and recognize that they can choose to grow and learn from these challenges that we've been through?
Well, 2 things. First, congratulations on, your success on this, because as we know, it's a hard road and you've done it and you've been sober now, I think you said 15 years. So congratulations on your success. That's just an amazing story on its own. And I'm sure you're so proud of it and get to help so many people due to it. So thank you for even sharing that. The other part about, Pollyanna you brought up before we even get into the post-traumatic growth is, a lot of people will say that, if you're a positive psychologist or you study that, are you always happy? And I want people to know is, I'm not saying that everybody should be happy every day. That's an impossibility. Yeah. We have a life that, has stress in it, and that's the way our world is, and it's the way our bodies are. And we're going to have stress, and that's okay. And the other thing is with emotions, I'm not telling people to not feel the emotions. One of the strongest things we need people to do is be self-aware of what they feel and then feel those emotions. I always say feel to heal. If you don't feel whatever you're feeling, whether it's sadness, hurt, anger, doesn't matter what it is, or the variety of all those emotions, then you can't get through to the other side. So just always remember that, feel to heal. really important. And especially to get to a place of post-traumatic growth, we want you to feel, we want you to grieve. So if I have someone who comes to me who has trauma, and maybe they've been in a major car accident or horseback riding or whatever it is, and now they're paralyzed from their waist down and they're devastated and they're going through this trauma both physically and emotionally. Of course, you're going to go through a time in your life where you're going to grieve, and you're going to go through the different stages of, grieving, and not everybody goes through each stage, and it doesn't have to be in any specific order, even though, they usually, especially if you go by like the Kubler-Ross, that is the main, grieving theory here, grief theory, you don't actually always have to go in the exact order, and you might not feel every different stage, but you're going to go through that. You're going to hit an area where you're in this gray area where you're just feeling all the emotions, anger, hurt, sadness, and that's normal. When you get to the place of acceptance, which can take, it's so different for everyone, so I can't say, it can take months, it could take years. And that's a big question. Clients always ask me, like, how long is this, stuff going to take? Really, they say it like how long is this grieving, healing, forgiveness? How long is this going to take? And it's so individual, so I can't give anybody a time frame, and you shouldn't give yourself a time frame because that sets you up for an unrealistic expectation. Because even when you have healed, there's still triggers that can bring you back. So we're always a work in progress.
Yeah.
But, when you get to that place of acceptance, which means you're just hitting a new norm, it doesn't mean things go back to the way they were. It doesn't mean that you're perfectly okay. It just means you've come to a place in your life that you have a new identity, a new normal. When you get there, then you have the ability, as you said, to have that kind of post-traumatic growth. And, one of the important things is we know for healing, grieving, forgiveness, all of that, one of the things we need to have post-traumatic growth is we need support. And that's one of the biggest key factors that we really need to talk about, is that people need to have a support system. And the support system doesn't have to be huge, but it has to have this one key ingredient to it. It's a emotional basic need that we need to be happy. We need to have unconditional love and support. And that is really, without unconditional love and support, you can't really heal by yourself. We need it. We're social creatures. Even if you're introverted or you consider yourself an empath and you're highly sensitive, even if it's only one or two people, you need to have those people who love you unconditionally. Yeah. And that doesn't mean they're going to agree with everything you do. It doesn't mean that at all, because people have asked me that. Unconditional means that they'll tell you when that's harmful to you or when you're doing something that's going to hurt you, but they won't abandon you. Even if they take a back seat because they can't watch it, if you decide to get the help or you really need them, they'll be there. And that's the kind of thing we need.
Absolutely, and I'm hearing within it that unconditional love and support for healing is absolutely essential, and that was certainly my experience all those years ago. But then the next stage that I've come across, the unconditional love and support for healing is essential, but then the next stage is the growth. So once I'm in that place of feeling healed, of absolutely acceptance, I think it's number one. I think it's Byron Katie that says that when you fight reality, you only lose 100% of the time. So that need for that acceptance for what is, and then from that new place. I love how you described a new normal, a new identity. We're not back to how we were, but in some instances, we're at a place now where there is a whole new trajectory available to us because of that experience that we've had. So that unconditional love and support, turning from healing to growth, has been what I see, not just in the recovery field, but also coming to the business side. Like one of the things that happens within my business is masterminds. We were in these small, intimate groups where I would say the emotional support is as important, if not more so, than the strategic support. Because without that love and acceptance and support, you can't grow either.
And you're absolutely right. And one of the things also to remember with what you're just saying is that, post-traumatic growth comes at the end. It's after you go through all the healing and stuff. So yeah, it really takes time. And a lot of people get very frustrated. That's why I always say, don't give yourself a time frame, but know that it takes time and energy. And really, it's a struggle to get through it. But when you get to the other side, that is where the growth is. And that's really important because when you're talking about, especially in work, when we think about setbacks, challenges, failures or mistakes, the best way to get through them is to know there is a lesson to be learned, a change that needs to be made, something you can do different so you don't repeat the same pattern and stay in that vicious cycle or that loop that's keeping you down or keeping you insecure and feeling not enough, whether it's in work, love, friendships, it doesn't matter where. But we need to know that it takes a lot of time, energy, hard work, and struggle, but it is completely possible. Not everybody does get to that point. But if you want to, I have seen people have done it. I mean, I had a client that is paralyzed from his chest down, and it happened to him at a really young age, 21 years old. And it was nothing he did. It was a complete accident. And he was suicidal from this, so depressed, lost everything. And now, God, about 7-8 years later, he's married, has a few kids. I mean, enjoying life, living life to the fullest. And that's what I mean. People have that ability. I mean, this is someone who had a normal life, walking like you and I, and everything was taken away due to an accident that he had no control over. It was not his fault. It wasn't drug or alcohol. He didn't put himself in harm's way. It was just a complete accident. Just like I had a client who had a stroke due to pushing out her son. It just caused a brain aneurysm. Things that are outside of your control, circumstances. And yet, both of those clients of mine, it didn't happen overnight, took years. But they're both in post-traumatic growth. They both have happy lives. They're both really out there making a difference, even if it's just within their friends and family, just them becoming the role model for other people. It's that amazing. So people do have that ability. And resiliency is part of it. It's a trait that falls under PTG. You know, like, people who are resilient naturally probably have a better shot to get there. I mean, we all have a genetic set point of happiness. So if you get into a trauma and you go through the healing stage, and whether it's a year or two later, when you're done and you hit that acceptance, you go back to your genetic set point of happiness. Whether you were a pessimist beforehand or an optimist beforehand, you'll go back to that. But from there, everybody has the ability to be happier. And that's what we know with the science of positive psychology. No matter what you've come from, no matter where you are at this moment, everybody has the ability to do better and be better and feel better. So no one should feel that they're hopeless and that they can't do it. There is so much science behind it, and there's so many simple, easy things we can do every day that does not cost us any money and does not change our schedule, but does cultivate happiness for us. So I want everybody to hear that.
And that is so encouraging to hear that. I mean, that idea of there being a set point of happiness, a set point of resilience, I've certainly heard that. And that set point we may not be able to change in terms of a genetic basis. However, with you saying that there are simple things that we can do every day because we've all got the ability to be and do better and happier as of now, if we make that conscious choice now that we can improve those levels, those levels of happiness and resilience, what would you say to someone who's like feeling that they have been challenged, there has been some failures, there has been some mistakes, some detours, some derailments, you know, however you like to describe it, in their business or life, and they're listening to us right now and going, I want this, what do I do? What are some things that we could introduce on like even that daily basis, just a couple of simple things that will help us begin to improve our likelihood of bouncing back?
Okay. Well, I'm going to start off with one simple thing that anybody can do. And because you brought up business a few times, I'm going to just stick a little bit on the business side. What happens to people when they're feeling stuck or down? Because I have clients who just come to me and go, I just feel blah. Nothing major is going on. They're just not as happy with life, you know, and they're feeling stuck, whether it's in their business or personal life or both. And what happens is when we're not that happy and we feel stuck or stagnant, we try to solve the problems the same way over and over again. And being that we spend majority of our day and our time on autopilot, where we just go and do the way we normally do without really thinking, and we're stuck in our subconscious autopilot mind, we don't really get out of it. When we're in our conscious mind, where we're in the here and now, we're our most productive, our most creative and happiest, and we problem solve completely different. So people who are stuck and struggling, one of the things I'll say to them is, I need you to get outside of your subconscious mind. I need you to get off of autopilot. So what I want you to do is I want you to do something that causes flow. And flow is a positive psychology term, but you know, a lot of people say in the zone. But what flow means is it's an activity that you do that you love, but it challenges you not too much that you're going to be so frustrated that you're not enjoying it, but it challenges you enough so it's still exciting, but it's also something you love to do, that you're passionate for, and it gives you a sense of timelessness, that you don't know if 2 hours passed, 4 hours passed. It feels like 10 minutes, but so much time has passed. And what it does is it causes your brain to kind of get into a mindful state, like when you meditate, like all of your negativity, all your thoughts kind of float to the back of your brain, and it clears it, and you become in the here and now. You don't think about any of the problems that are going on in your world, any of the negativity, because you're so in the zone. And that's when those aha moments come. And that's when all of those new ideas come, because you're not in your subconscious autopilot. So for anybody who's just feeling stuck and keeps trying to solve a problem the same way, go do something that causes flow. And for most people, flow either comes on two sides. It either comes in a sport, like you were saying before, soccer, football, the gym, walking. We know walking scientifically cultivates mindfulness the best way possible. So, any of that, or on the other hand, it could be something creative, drawing, painting, writing. I have clients who swear by cooking or baking. I even had a client tell me she gets flow from cleaning. Now, I told her she can come over and have as much flow at my house as she wants. But for me, I get angry when I clean. Not a good cleaner. But, for me, it's writing or walking, where I really get into the flow. Even if I have music playing in my ear, even if I have my headset on, I still will get in that flow. And that will really, now what flow does is flow cultivates happiness and mindfulness. So it's a great way to get all the benefits, but yet also be able to problem solve from your conscious mind and get off of autopilot, where you get new ideas, where you get new solutions, where you get more creative, because you're outside of your autopilot pattern. So that's just one way. And, the bonus is you get the mindfulness, which is a great way to de-stress naturally, no side effects. It, reduces your blood pressure, which is another one. It lowers our pain it doesn't lower our pain tolerance. It makes, it lowers the feeling of pain because we don't focus in on it as much, brings us to the here and now. It de-stresses us, brings us calm, and it also cultivates happiness. So it's a great tool just to use. And even on days that you're not problem solving, everybody should have flow in their lives at least a few times a week. So that's one area.
I think just to pop in for a moment, I believe that there's a third area as well. Definitely the sport. Like I'm thinking when I'm playing soccer like I was yesterday, I am definitely in flow. I am not thinking about the challenges and the problems. Otherwise I'll get smacked on the head by a ball. And also the creative side. But I think there's a third one, which I've often come across, which is what I call GOS, get off self. So when we are in a volunteer role, or when we're in a nurturing role or a mentor role, in lots of ways, and us in the recovery movement, it's when you sponsor other people. When you get off self, that really also takes you out of that subconscious, I'm stuck, life is terrible, etc., etc. And so that's a third one that I'd like to add to the list.
Oh, absolutely. When I'm speaking, doing my workshops, I feel that way. I get flow. And if you can have flow in a career way as well, too, which some people do, then even better, because then you have it more often. But whatever it is, whatever causes you flow, that's one of the first places that I always tell my clients to start. Another big place to just cultivate more happiness in our lives, which is very simple, is gratitude. And, everybody talks about it now. It's really big, but it's something scientifically positive psychology has been doing a lot of research on. And gratitude is such an important tool because it does a few things. Gratitude, one, cultivates happiness. Second thing, it cultivates mindfulness when you do gratitude. The other thing is it starts retraining your brain to go from negative to positive. It's such an important tool because it actually puts your focus in on the good things. I have my clients do it at night. So what I have my clients do, and anybody can do it however they choose, but this is just the way I have my clients do it, just to give people a way to do it, is right before bed, when you shut the light and TV off and you say goodnight to everybody, you can either say it out loud, say it in your head, or write it. But just ask yourself, what are 2 to 3 things I'm grateful for that happened today? I want my clients to look through the day, because what happens, and what I've learned from my clients as well as myself, is if I ask people what they're grateful for, I can ask them every day and I'll get the same things. I'm grateful that I woke up today, the sun is shining, for a roof over my head, for my job, my kids, my health, my family, all great things. But what happens is when you just say them over and over again, we get into like a gratitude rut. where it doesn't really have any more value to it. But if I take my day and I search through for the little gifts and blessings, like maybe for some reason you didn't hit traffic or you got great parking, or, the sun was shining when it was supposed to rain. I don't really care what it is, because it could be the littlest things. It doesn't have to be these big things. But when we start noticing the positive instead of the negative, we start training our brain to look at new things. And at the end of the day, we have this, it's the negative bias. You could have this great day where 99% of your day went great and 1% was not good. And what do you focus on? The 1%.
We have negative bias. Yep, that's for sure.
Right. And that's what I don't want people to do, because this is another thing. Whatever you're thinking about 10 to 15 minutes or even 20 minutes before you go to bed will affect how you sleep, if you sleep, and what mood you wake up in the morning. So if I have you doing gratitude at night, which is a form of meditation, which helps you sleep, you're also going to sleep with positive thoughts in your head, which can also affect your dreams, because we have negative dreams. We have those stressed out dreams trying to figure out things that happen in our day, what we have to do during the week. So literally just doing gratitude will cultivate more happiness. It gives you the mindfulness without even trying. And it starts shifting your focus. And whatever you focus on, literally, is what you notice. So if you're always thinking about something, you'll search for it. Your brain will search for it. So if you're always having negative thoughts, that's what you notice in your day. That's what you'll look for. That's what your brain will start to look for. And we don't want you doing that. So if you start doing gratitude and you start shifting what you notice and what you look for, you're going to look for more opportunities and more possibilities, instead of looking for all the things that justify, well, I'm not good enough, or everything bad happens to me. So you can switch it. And it takes a few months. I make my clients do it for 3 months, that they email me their gratitude every night. You can do it however you want, or for however I continue to do it. Gratitude is part of my morning routine. I do it in the morning for the day before, because at night I meditate. So it just didn't work for me. But for most of my clients, doing it at night is just such a great, every one of them has said it's made such a shift in their life. And it's simple and free.
I will certainly chime in on this one as well, because a gratitude practice, and a lot of people, as you're saying, they've heard of it, but there's a difference between hearing about something and actually putting it into practice. And I've kept a gratitude journal fairly religiously for over 12 years. And it is absolutely the number one thing I believe that shifted, because I had to filter for the good. It shifted that thinking process from everything sucks to, what? Life's pretty darn good. And when you have that feeling, and I didn't actually think about it affecting your sleep, because I do it at night. When you have that feeling that everyone basically is doing the best they can, that the world is a pretty happy place, then you bounce through life with a little more optimism and positivity, which is the way that I like to approach the world if I can. And there's another piece to this. So gratitude list, I absolutely recommend anyone who doesn't have one, please get into the habit of doing it. It is such a strong indicator and builder of your own optimism, without a doubt. The other one that I like to do as well, Diane, is we call a fabulous file if you're in my world. So a fabulous file is specifically for business, and it's for you, because one of the things that happens more often than not is I find women in my world who have doubt about their ability to step into a next chapter, doubt about their ability to, or the value of what it is that they have to offer to the world. And when they're quite tentative, when they're starting out in business, we need to get our intrinsic motivation, without a doubt, but having external validation, very much inverted commas there, is helpful. There's no doubt it's helpful. We have to come internally eventually, but the outside helps. So a fabulous file is evidence of your fabulosity. So it's things goals that you've set and you've achieved within your business, no matter how big or small. You take evidence of that and you literally put it into a physical box. It's not a digital file, it's a physical box. When you get feedback from your clients that's positive, you print it out, you put it in the box. When there is a social media comment that is supportive, you take a screenshot, you print it out, you put it in the box. All things like that lift your spirit of positivity and can do about your business. When you're having one of those crappy days, when you do feel doubt and you do feel what's the point, then you literally pull the file down and you roll around in it a little while, and you recognize that things, hey, they might not be fabulous today. However, in the broader picture, I'm making an impact. I'm reaching my goals. I'm making progress. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it's progress. So I think a fabulous file sitting alongside a gratitude practice, those two tools can certainly lift your ability to grow over time. What do you think?
I love it. That's a great tool. Absolutely. And not just in business, definitely personal too. And what we do to match it, that's kind of similar, is I have my clients do the gratitude at night. And then the next question I have them do, which is similar to what you do, but definitely puts on a little bit of a definite difference twist, which I love, the fabulous. But I have them write, after their 2 to 3 gratitude, I have them also write, what are 2 to 3 things they did well today?
Perfect.
Because gratitude we don't have control over. Like if the weather's beautiful and you didn't hit traffic, you're lucky and that's grateful, but you didn't have control over it. So if you have that insecurity, and which is normal, because one of our biggest fears is that we're not good enough, so we can look for it through the day. But when you start noticing what you did well, even if it's something small, like you didn't eat that Hershey bar, you took an apple, or you said no instead of saying yes and making yourself stressed. It doesn't have to be these big things, but when you start noticing what you did well and feeling the accomplishment and pride that comes with it, which is a positive emotion, which is very huge in positive psychology. We know the more positive emotions you have daily, the happier you are, the longer you live. So when you can really write down 2 to 3 things you did well, you start again refocusing on the good instead of the bad, because at the end of the day at night, what do we focus on? I should have done this. I could have done that. Why did I say that? That was such a stupid move. And instead, I want you to focus on what you did well. And then you start feeling the gratitude, the pride, the accomplishment, which makes you feel more curious to try new things. All 4 of those things, gratitude, appreciation, pride, and curiosity, are all positive emotions. So again, now we're adding in even more positivity, more cultivating happiness, again, for free without changing our schedule. I mean, so these are such easy things to do to really make a difference in your life, both personally and professionally. So I love the fabulous. I love the gratitude. I love what did I do well. I mean, mixing all of them together is just, adding in more tools to your emotional toolbox.
And they're so simple. They sound almost like, really? Do they really have an impact? But I absolutely swear, Scout's honor, that these that sort of things have brought me back from a really, really negative mindset, without a doubt.
And we know scientifically, that's the great thing. I mean, because you've done them. I know because I've done them. I have clients who've done them. But scientifically, we know a positive side because we measure happiness. We know within a month you start feeling the benefits of the gratitude and what did I do well and the fabulous. So everything's for it. And the positive emotions is under Dr. Barbara Fredrickson. She studies that. It's part of positive psychology. And we know they just did recent studies on this. If you have a daily diet of positive emotions, you can live up to 7 years longer, healthier, and happier. Just by positive emotions like love and kindness and joy and awe and wonderment and inspiration and hope and pride and all of them. And again, they're all free and they're easy to get. And, one of those is kindness. Every time you do a random act of kindness, which is a way to cultivate happiness, it also boosts your self-esteem and it's another positive emotion. And all you have to do one act of kindness a day is hold the door open, say hi, smile at someone, give a compliment. Nothing has to do with money and nothing has to change your schedule. But yet, every time you do a random act of kindness for someone, you get a boost of happiness that can last 24 to 72 hours. And the same person, the person you gave it to gets the same boost and it boosts your self-esteem. I mean, these are just win-win situations.
Yeah, they are. And every little piece builds on the one before. And so we get this almost avalanche of positivity that we can be bathing in if we commit to that sort of practice.
Absolutely. And that's all it is. You just said the word. It's a practice. Mm-hmm. It's having, you probably talk about this with business, having a routine for success, a morning routine for success, an evening routine. They're so important. And how can you put those in there? A lot of my clients for morning routine or even at the end of the day, evening, they'll literally just send a text to someone saying, hey, thank you for doing this for me. If it was business, if it's personal, hey, just want to tell you I love you. Thank you for being there. You're such a great friend, whatever it is. And that gives you gratitude and kindness all in one shot. So, I mean, it's that simple. When people say to me, I don't have enough time. You don't have 20 seconds to send a text? I think we all do, even at a red light. I know we're not supposed to text and drive, so it has to be at a red light or a stop sign. Or even if, whenever it is, even if you're waiting for your food to come while you're online, everybody has 20 seconds. Everybody has the ability to smile at someone. One of the biggest positive psychology exercises is just to smile at 10 people you don't know a day. That's it. And smiling is contagious, and it automatically produces endorphins. Every time you smile, you laugh, you spoon, you cuddle, you hug, and it's free. And when you smile at someone, it makes them smile, even if they don't want to. And it gives them that good feeling. It's just so contagious. So there's no excuses on any of this. And again, even though it sounds simple and people go, it's too simple to be true, it works. The science is there. You can research it. So you don't have to believe Angela and I. Just search it up, Google it, and it'll come right up for you. That's the best part about it. We have the science backing it now.
This is a very powerful combination of both the scientific backing and the experience evidence that we've got to share on this call as well. And I think a big one is that it's the positivity ripple. Like most of the women in my world and who are listening, they've got a real desire for contribution. They want to make a difference. They want to help. That is a commonality in terms of the motivation behind the things that we do. And this concept here of the positivity ripple, without even having to, as you said, add to the burden of the to-do list, we can very simply smile at someone who then is more likely to smile at the next person, and they might be more likely to upsell them when they're getting their coffee. We might actually manage to buy a piece of cake as well. We can actually help the economy as well as the emotions. It happens both sides.
Yeah, it really does. It's so great that it's all this happiness or negativity too is contagious. I mean, Best way to think about it is moods and emotions are contagious. And if I walk into a room, let's say I'm at a business meeting, if I walk in the room and the person doing the meeting, presenting, if they're in a bad mood, I feel it within like 30 seconds to a minute. Yeah. Right. And within like 5 to 10 minutes, their mood can become my mood. So you want to also look about and be intentional of the people you spend your time with, because moods and emotions are really contagious. And negativity flies way quicker than positivity because of our negative bias. Because the way society is, I mean, people don't even call them pessimists here. When people are pessimists, they tell me they're realists. Yeah, that's really the new term here. I'm not sure where you are, but here it is.
I think we need to buck that trend and send this create a positivity practice. Without a doubt, that's what we need to encourage in the world.
Absolutely.
Diane, this has been such I hesitate to say, a positive conversation. But the thing that I'm loving about it is the practicality, like the small things that we can do that will have that ripple effect, yes, on the world around us, but internally. Like we can actually change our internal landscape by adopting these positivity practices and putting ourselves in that mindset where we know that we can move into post-traumatic growth once we've gone through the healing part. And I think that what you were talking about with making sure that you have a circle around you who has that unconditional love and support, that is absolutely vital. So for anyone that's listening at the moment and is just feeling that kernel of, you know what, maybe there is that possibility that I can move forward into my next chapter. Apart from these couple of very simple and powerful tips that you've given us, is there anything else that you would like to share with that woman who's listening now to encourage you to take the next step?
You know what? Just do it. That's the thing. You know, we can give all of these tips and tools, and you could give a lot more. We can have 20 million more guests, but if you don't actually do the work, it won't change. Yep. So you have to do the work. And the other thing, all I would say is every day, just try to challenge yourself. That would be my last tip. That's simple. Every day, ask yourself, how can I step outside my comfort zone today? Even little things. We don't want you to live outside your comfort zone and have a panic attack. I just want people to get outside of it just a little, even if it's trying a new food, you know, raising your hand when you normally wouldn't, taking a different route to work without your GPS could be that simple. But having that challenge of change and not, you know, letting it bring you down and not being fearful really preps you for things when they are really scary. So get outside your comfort zone and you'll feel less stuck as well, and you'll get more creativity and variety. So challenge yourself every day and just get out there and do it. You will notice a difference. Just give it a month. Just give it that month and you'll see a difference.
I will absolutely second that without a doubt. Well, Diane, that has been fantastic. Now, I will put your web address on the show notes, which is www.dlcounseling.com, where they'll be able to find you. But where else do you play online for connection?
If you go on my website, you can also find my blog right through there. And if you want to, you could sign up on my newsletter and receive a free newsletter every Monday, which is just a dose of happiness. And my books can be found on my website or Amazon.com.
Fantastic. I love that thought of starting off a week with a dose of happiness. That's a very positive way of beginning the week. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're most welcome. And to you, my lovely listener, I hope that you have that spark of excitement in you right now after listening to this conversation. You know, you may already be a positive person just naturally, but you can also turn the volume up by bringing in that positivity practice, those bookends of your day. How you start and finish your day can really frame the experience that you have every single day. So I'd love to hear how it is that you are bringing these practices that Diane and I have spoken about today into your world. And if you are in a place at the moment where you need to do some healing, when you have had a trauma, and that trauma is defined as by your experience of it, there's not a checklist of what it needs to look like. You don't need to compare your scenario with somebody else's. It's whatever is happening for you. But know that with love and support, it is possible to move through it. And as you've heard from today, it is also possible to grow as a direct response. Now, I know that you are likely to be just like me and so many other women in the Next Chapter community. You want to make a difference, and your own experience, what you have learned from, what you have grown from, will definitely help another beyond yourself. So take that thought, take those kernels of wisdom that you've heard here today, and flourish in that next chapter. As Diane said as she was ending her conversation with us, step outside your comfort zone just a smidgen today. You'll look back and smile on the growth that you're having. So until we talk again, this is Angela Rasmus saying, take care. Thanks for listening to the Your Next Chapter podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love you to share it, perhaps leave a review in iTunes, and of course, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're looking for your own business breakthrough at the moment, then I've got something special for you. Visit angelarasmus.com/breakthrough guide. That e-guide takes you through the 4 key gaps to close that may be stopping you from reaching the next level in your business. I hope it's extremely helpful, and I look forward to talking with you again on the next episode.